On a late night in July 1926, the air in Baghdad still clung to the residual heat left by the day's scorching sun. Within a bedroom cramped with bookshelves and maps, the ceiling fan blade spun sluggishly, humming a hypnotic, rhythmic cadence. The faint flicker of a kerosene lamp on the desk cast long shadows over a disarray of archaeological fragments and a letter, penned with care, yet destined never to be sent. Gertrude Bell lay motionless upon her bed, her fingers still loosely clutching a vial of the sleeping draught she frequented to ward off insomnia. Tonight, by the soft pulse of the hearth, let us journey through the true odyssey of her life, a tale that requires no effort to remember, only to be felt. She was one of the most preeminent diplomats in British history and the undisputed queen of the desert to the Arab world. In an era when power was a forbidden fruit for women, she, through sheer force of will, drew the borders of modern-day Iraq amidst the swirling cigar smoke of the Cairo Conference. The life of Gertrude Bell did not truly begin with a world-shaking redrawing of maps, but in the hallowed, chilly halls of an Oxford library, where she first felt the living breath behind ancient texts. Born into the family of a prominent industrial titan, her prescribed script was one of ornate lace gowns and selecting a respectable husband in the salons of London. Yet, through her veins pulsed a wildness utterly at odds with her time, a pathological yearning for unknown frontiers. She became the first woman in the history of Oxford University to achieve a first-class degree in modern history, but this accolade brought no liberation. The London of that era had no place for a mind so brilliant and overqualified. Thus, she cast her gaze toward the yellowed patches of the map marked as terra incognita. Amidst the desolate ruins of Mesopotamia, she shed the fragile shell of a socialite and forged a soul tempered by grit, sand, and unyielding fortitude to gain acceptance from the formidable Bedouin tribes. Gertrude Bell transformed her very existence into an act of meticulous self-domestication. She eschewed the arrogance of colonial officials, choosing instead to carry her notebooks with humility, patiently charting tribal genealogies, water sources, and the generational feuds that defined the desert. Beside campfires beneath vast, starlit canopies, she donned local robes and conversed in fluent Arabic about the echoes of history. The sheiks soon discovered that this woman's wisdom surpassed even their eldest sages, and they came to honor her as the noble daughter. When the Great War erupted, her exhaustive maps and intricate network of contacts became the core strategic assets of the Arab Bureau in Cairo. During those turbulent days, she crossed paths with T. Lawrence. They were comrades in arms, two shadows overlapping by chance in the wasteland, both attempting to stitch together a promise of independence and freedom amidst the gunpowder smoke, even though they knew such promises were mere trifles upon the empire's grand chessboard. When the Cairo Conference of 1921 concluded, Gertrude Bell emerged as the de facto power behind the throne in Baghdad. She drew the straight lines of the national borders, a zenith of her political influence, yet also the inception of her tragedy. She soon realized that ink on paper could never contain the ancient animosities surging beneath the soil. This sense of displacement was felt most poignantly in her private heart. The man she had loved so deeply perished in the war, and his letters to her were reduced to ash. After that, the sun seemed to set forever on Gertrude's world. Her heart became like the ancient amphorae she excavated, fractured, fragile, and chilled to the core. In a letter home, she confessed with haunting clarity, "I am not afraid of death, but I fear this boundless, uncomprehended life." In her twilight years, she poured her remaining life force into the founding of the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad. Turning her back on the transience of politics, she spent her days buried in mud-stained inscriptions and shattered seals. She believed steadfastly that these stones, spanning millennia, possessed a dignity far greater than any regime or any arbitrary border. By now, her frame had withered to frailty, her hair turned to frost, and her face became as austere and chiseled as a statue weathered by desert gales. The powerhouse who had once shaped nations at the Cairo Conference had vanished, replaced by a solitary old woman keeping vigil over a guttering candle, tidying the fragments of her broken dreams. She understood that the world no longer had a use for her, or perhaps, the world had changed so irrevocably that she could no longer maintain a dignified love for it. On the morning of July 12, 1926, Gertrude Bell passed away peacefully in Baghdad. Her funeral was of the utmost simplicity, yet it was attended by countless local Arabs who came to bid a silent farewell to their Khatun, the princess of the East. The borders she traced continue to shape the world's destiny, and the museum she took such pride in has endured through cycles of ruin and rebirth. Her life was a long, arduous voyage, seeking freedom amidst constraints, order within chaos, and dignity in the heart of solitude. Even now, a century later, when one looks back at that desert beneath the starlight, one can almost discern the silhouette of a woman in a Victorian dress, leading her camel with unwavering resolve toward the horizon's end. May Gertrude Bell's spirit of tenacity and stillness become the softest veil of sand in your dreams, carrying you into a night of starlit peace. Good night.